So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Look you back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Tuesday, February 16th. Hope everyone's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day. Yesterday, it is in fact Tuesday, February 16th here today. A lot of sports news to get talking to today. We got baseball right around the corner, one day away from pitchers and catchers reporting to spring training. It's going to be super exciting. Baseball season is back, and it is right around the corner. Spring training is pretty much here. Baseball regular season is right around the corner. We'll have it all covered here on the podcast here today. We are now 16 days into the month of February, and so far I would say it's been a good sports month. Obviously, in February you have the start of MLB spring training. You have, in normal circumstances, basketball season is usually at its about midway point. It's usually at its all-star game by now, but obviously with the season getting put on pause a little bit, them having to start it later, obviously meant that we are still in the beginning part of the season. Same thing with the NHL. They would be now by having their all-star game. NFL, it's business as usual. This would be about the first full week of the offseason. They would be, teams are going to start to look at players who to get, start scouting, draft, pro days, stuff like that. That's usually business as usual, but usually in a normal circumstance, by now, the MLB or the NBA is usually at its all-star point, and the NHL is usually at its all-star point, but the NHL is realistically only 10 to 13 games into the season, and the NBA is only about 25-30 games in the season, so nowhere near where it usually is, but it's still great to have NHL and NBA in action, even if it's a little bit of a shorter season, still fun to watch. College basketball on today, kind of to recap yesterday in sports, the Nets got a good win yesterday. 136-125, so we are now 2-0 with our first two games in. We are now 2-0 on the West Coast road trip, beating the Warriors on Saturday night and beating the Kings last night. They have a game today against the Suns, which should be a very good game. Suns are one of the best teams are red hot right now, and the Nets are also, I don't want to say red hot, but they have won 3 straight. So you hope that, they can make it 4 here and hope that they can, get on this little bit of a winning streak again, get back into the winning ways. Obviously, there was a little bit of that choppy stretch there where we're losing to teams like the Pistons. Harden had another big game. Kyrie Irving at 40 points. KD's obviously out again tonight. But if the Nets could play solid defense tonight, if we can step up and make plays, if Bruce Brown can have a solid game, we have a good shot at beating the Suns. But obviously, it's going to be a good game with the Nets tonight. Rangers also play tonight. It's kind of great. This is where the West Coast schedule works out because the Rangers come out at 7 p.m. Eastern Time and the Nets come on at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So right as the Rangers games end, you probably have about an hour there until the Nets game comes on. So I'll be able to watch the entire Rangers game without having to watch one on the phone or watch both of them. I'll be able to watch the entire Rangers game and still have about an hour to go until the Nets game comes on. Obviously, being that it's a West Coast trip, they come on later for the Eastern Standard Time and stuff like that. So so these are the topics for today. We got Jamison Crowder and the Jets. I decided to add a little bit of football in here with free agency, nearing, with rumors starting to heat up, with teams starting to, like I said early on in the podcast, with teams starting to, ramp up discussions, ramp up, trade ideas, ramp up, pro days and scouting and stuff like that. As the offseason nears, as we get closer and closer to the prime of the offseason, some guys on the Jets like Marcus May, Jamison Crowder are going to be, it's going to be interested to see if the Jets bring them back, if the Jets let them walk in free agency, what the Jets are going to do. And the Jets have a $10 million decision to make on Jamison Crowder. I will tell you if they should keep Jamison Crowder or if they should let him go. I will tell you why I think they should keep him. Jamison Crowder, I really believe, currently is the best player on our offense. He's been dominant since we got him, so I will talk about him. Get into a little bit of the Jets news, tell you how he could really help our receiving core. And then to get into the second topic, Justin Wilson signed with the New York Yankees yesterday. Used to play with the Yankees a couple years ago, but has now then went to the Tigers, the Mets, is now back with the New York Yankees. Played with the Mets last season, now is with the New York Yankees. Gives us some bullpen depth. This is not a move that's going to put us, this is not a move that's going to throw us through the roof, automatic World Series champions, but this is going to be a move that's going to already add on to an excellent bullpen we already have. It's only going to add on to depth. And when you get into some of these series, if you're in a 4-game series, and let's just say you have a back-to-back or something, or let's say you have a doubleheader, for example, and you're in the 7th inning and your bullpen's worn down. This would be a guy to bring in that's going to be very quality. On some teams, this could be a guy that could be a high-end bullpen guy, but on the Yankees, he's a little bit on the lower of the spectrum because of how good the Yankees are, which goes to show you we are building bullpen depth and we are creating one of the better bullpens in the league. So this was good for the New York Yankees. Then we got college basketball, NBA, NHL, fantasy. No Kentucky today. They play tomorrow. And your rest of your New York sports update, fantasy basketball and hockey are currently going pretty good this week. And then today, we've obviously got the next round of games, obviously, today for fantasy basketball and stuff. So, it should be pretty good. So, with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So the Jets' $10 million decision. Is Jamison Crowder a keeper in new offense? So the New York Jets, obviously, this season have made a complete coaching overhaul, a complete coaching change with the hiring of Robert Saleh. Earlier on this month, not early on this month. This move was made in January? So last month we obviously announced the hiring of head coach Robert Saleh. He is obviously the new head coach of the New York Jets, and obviously is really what a lot of us Jets fans really believe is going to be turn around this team, really make this team at a respectable level again. Because currently we are a joke. We are currently a team where a lot of people look at and make fun of. We are currently a team that a lot of people say, when they look at each team's schedule, when you start the year and you get your schedule, there's always those teams that you say, oh, this is going to be a hard game, this is going to be an easy game. Usually the Jets fall under the spectrum of the easy games. Now with Robert Saleh coming back, with him building this new offense, with him building this new coaching staff, with him bringing new players in, with him bringing his defensive mind and his different schemes for the defense and the offense into this building, into this team, into this organization, us as Jets fans, many NFL fans out there, really believe this is a great step in the right direction, and we all really believe that this is going to we really finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. Because for the past couple years, there has been no light at the end of the tunnel, and we are now starting to finally round the corner, and we are now starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel for Jets fans. And I know it's just one coaching hire, and we haven't even made any moves yet, but it's just you know how good this coach is. We know what he can do with teams, right? He took one of the worst defenses in the league and turned him to one of the best defenses in the league and took that team to a Super Bowl, right? What this Robert Saleh has done to this team was amazing. Now, at the same time, this does make for some difficult decisions. This does make for some players who might be moved on. This does make tough decisions. Whenever you make a coaching staff overhaul, this is in any sport. It's whether it's in baseball, whether it's in football, whether it's in basketball, or even in hockey. Mainly hockey, basketball, and football. Because baseball, you go up, you don't have any real crazy set plays, right? You don't have, no crazy set plays, right? You don't have, okay, we're going to run an all-out blitz here, right? The baseball doesn't quite have that. Football does. Really, whatever play, whatever you bring in, whatever coach you bring in, the players have to fit that kind of system. Whether it's a 4-3 defense, whether it's a 3-4 defense, whether it's a nickel defense, whether it's a heavy blitz defense, whether it's just a lot of zones and very little man, whatever the case may be, this is why when you get a new coach, a lot of times the rosters change big time because the coaches need to bring players in that fit their system, that fit their plan, that ultimately are going to give them the best opportunities to win. And at times that might not mean going out and getting the best talented players. It's going out and getting the players that are going to be fitting your system, right? Like just say you have the best receiver in the wide receiver core. Let's just say you have the best free agent available, but he doesn't fit your system. You might go out and get a lower end free agent that's still good but fits your system. So this makes for tough decisions for the organization, for GM Joe Douglas and head coach Robert Saleh. And with the New York Jets getting a new head coach meant that they got a new offensive coordinator. The brother of head coach Matt LaFleur, who is a current coach of the Green Bay Packers, he is going to be obviously Matt LaFleur is the head coach in Green Bay. His brother, Mike LaFleur, who was the passing game coordinator in San Francisco, has came over with Robert Saleh. He is our offensive coordinator for the New York Jets. So that means that there's going to be some decisions to make. There's going to be some moves that are going to have to be made. And Jamison Crowder is one of them. Jamison Crowder was signed the year Le'Veon Bell was also signed, which was 2 years ago. It was Adam Gaze's first year, so we got Crowder. It was that big free agency. We got Bell, we got Mosley, we got Crowder, we got Osemele in that thing, but Osemele's not even with the team anymore. Bell's not even with the team anymore. To be honest, that off season, to be honest, was a very bad off season outside of Jamison Crowder. And I'll tell you what, and I love the deal right when we got him, because I've always thought when Jamison Crowder, for many of you, Redskins fans out there, I'm sure you already know this, but Jamison Crowder used to play for the Washington Redskins, and he was a really solid asset for you guys. He came up, he played at Duke, was pretty good at Duke, came up, obviously played, I think he got drafted, I don't know when he got drafted completely, I think it was like the third round or something, came up with Washington. Many Washington's fans, I'm sure, remember him, but he was a very solid player with the Washington Redskins, or football team, whatever you want to call him. I don't really care, whatever you call him, but whatever, Washington, he was a very good player with them. Underrated, wasn't amazing, but he did his job. He went out there, was a solid slot guy. Came to the Jets. I loved the deal from the start. I said it. I said, and I wasn't doing podcasts then, but I even said how good this move was once we got him. I physically remember picking up my phone and reading the thing that we got him, and I was like, okay, I get it, we got Bell, and I get it, we got Mosley, and get it, we got all these guys, but I really believe this guy could be the hidden gem. And sure enough, he has been. He's been the best player we've gone from that free agency. Kelechi Osemele, not on the team anymore. Le'Veon Bell, not on the team anymore. CJ Mosley's played one game, has played 1.5 games because he got taken out to one halftime, played only like one game with us, and then got taken out, and then was injured, and then missed all that first season, missed all of this most recent season, and is now finally trying to come back this year and hopefully, makes an impact. But so far, Jamison Crowder has been the most successful. Jamison Crowder has been a very good slot receiver for the New York Jets. This is a guy that's quick, has got good hands, and he's still pretty young. Not crazy young. I would consider him a veteran, but he's still like in his late 20s. But this is a guy, since he gotten into the league, it might not be so much his skill and his amazing catches he would make, but it's his football smarts. It's his reading the defenses. It's knowing where to run. And sometimes you have these choice routes or these routes where, maybe you realize that there's a linebacker that's kind of hovering over the middle, and maybe he realizes when he's running the route, I'm going to go the other way. There's a lot of open field there. Switch his field, and Darnold or whoever the quarterback is this year has got him wide open right there. Very good speed for Jamison Crowder. I can't speak more highly of this guy. He, by far, last season was one of our best offensive players, and I would say this, for a guy who Jamison Crowder would fit this offense perfectly in Mike LaFleur's offense. He would fit this offense perfectly. I'll tell you why. Mike LaFleur's offense, and I talked about this when I was talking about Robert Saleh. I've talked about this a couple times on the podcast. Mike LaFleur's offense is a lot of play action, trickery, going to use the slot receivers a lot. Not so much airing the ball out all the time, but he does a lot of 10, 15-yard across the middles. He does a lot of these little, fake the handoff, roll out. You got a couple options. It's a play-action type offense. It's a fast-paced, quick-moving, get to the line of scrimmage, call hike, find the open guy type of offense. Jamison Crowder, he came from a Washington offense that was a play-action, quick-paced offense, succeeded there, came to the New York Jets, that actually wasn't really a fast-paced play-action offense, still succeeded, and now he's going back to where it began with another play-action type system offense. Jamison Crowder has to be kept by the New York Jets. This is a guy last season that I'm not sure if we would have scored a touchdown if he was not on this team. Just what he did on the field was so amazing. Run across the middle, give him the ball, he turns it upfield for another 15. He was 7th in the NFL in yards per catch. He had 11.9 yards per catch, which was 7th in the league, and a lot of that was maybe a 7-8 yard drag route or a 7-8 yard mesh route. He got it, and he took it upfield for another 5-10 yards. Just goes to show you how quick he is, how good he can be. And there's a lot of times teams last year try to double him, try to do whatever they can to stop him, and they couldn't. And you know what else was even more crazy? The Jets had absolutely no one. Outside of Denzel Mims, Brashad Perryman dropped a lot of balls. You know, Brashad Perryman had a decent year, but he was a big drop guy. He limits the drops. He would be a better receiver, but he was big drops. For a guy like Jamison Crowder, this was a guy that I looked at last season as this was a guy that was a respectable Jets player that you could put on your fantasy team, right? And I know it might sound crazy, but a lot of people, no one has usually guys on their fantasy team that are on the except Le'Veon Bell maybe, but there's a lot of times people don't have Jets players on their fantasy team because there's not many good players on the Jets. But Jamison Crowder last season was really the only one that you could put on your fantasy team because he would actually give you a good amount of points. And this was a guy too that it was like his first 3-4 games this season he had over 100 yards. Then he got injured, then came back and was still playing well. This is a guy whether he's getting, even if he's getting, there's a couple games last season where he only had like 3 targets. But every time he gets it's Jamison Crowder almost he plays like, and he's earned a really good spot in this league, but it's almost like he plays like he is, at times he plays like he's being scouted or he's at a pro day or he's, he always plays like someone's watching him. Even it's just the little things. Even it's just the little cuts, the littlest moves, even it's just the lowering the shoulder at the right time. He does it all right. This guy is quick, football smart, and he always plays like someone's a scout, like he's trying out. He always tries to do something extra, right? Whether that's, whatever the case, whatever that's in. Whether that's catching the ball, lowering your shoulder. Whether that's catching the ball, trying to make that extra move to get another 5-10 yards. Whatever the case may be, he did it all. And this was another guy too. If you're in a 4th down and 3, 4th down and 4 situation, and you don't want to run the ball, obviously, because that's 4 yards is not that hard. But, on a 4th down, to run the ball on 4th down and 4 is a little risky. That's usually a passing down. He would be a guy that you would look at. That little comeback route right across the middle, give it right to him. He's quick, so it seems like he's going upfield, comes right back, gives it right to him. 5-6 yard game, boom, you're moving the change. Now, outside of him, the Jets' offense was dull, and that's another thing, right? We can all hope that the Jets go out and get at least 1 or 2 more receivers. But let's just say they don't, and they use the draft. You can't possibly get one guy in the draft and leave Jamison Crowder. You've got to keep Jamison Crowder. Now, if you get 3 amazing receivers and you don't have enough money, then maybe. But I don't see you getting Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin, and Allen Robinson. If you get the 3 best receivers, sure, I would take that all day. I don't think they will. I personally think the Jets are going to get Allen Robinson and maybe Will Fuller. But that still shouldn't mean that you should give up Jamison Crowder. Because he's a slot. He's not a regular receiver. He's a slot receiver. I really believe, too, just thinking about this, is the Bills got Cole Beasley at slot. I really believe that the AFC East has some of the better slot receivers. Cole Beasley and Jamison Crowder, I think, are some of the better slot receivers in the league. They're very good slot receivers. I think you consider Jamison Crowder a top 10 slot receiver in the league. Maybe not top 10, but top 15 slot receiver in the league. Slot receiver. This isn't a number 1 receiver like a DeAndre Hopkins, Stephon Diggs, someone like that. It's a slot receiver. It's a guy that's going to run a lot of 5, 6, 7 yards, little across the middle routes. You give him the ball, he's going to get like 50, 60 yards a game. And he's going to be that guy in the red zone that you can lean on. I'm not saying Jamison Crowder is a top 10 receiver in the league. I'm saying slot receiver-wise, he definitely is up there. And since he's joined the Jets, he's only improved. And I got to thank Washington for that because they really developed him. He came on, he had a little bit of not problems like off the field, but he had a couple things in his game that needed to be fixed. A couple of his cuts, his hands, stuff like that. They fixed that. Now he's really helping out this team big time. And like I said, I don't want to be that guy that's going to sit here and say I think he wants to be with the Jets. I mean, who knows? Jamison Crowder might want to go to another team. I think his role here is so big. I mean, he's got such a big role with the Jets. I think there's a good shot if he has another good year this year. We give him the $10 million just to avoid the free agency and stuff, and we give him the franchise and stuff, the tag and stuff, the $10 million, and we keep him, and he has another good year. He could possibly be in good shape for a big payday next year, and that could be from us. But that's also up in the air. This is not my decision. This is Joe Douglas' decision. I'm just explaining myself. I really believe that this is a guy that the Jets need to keep. And if he stays healthy, if he's on the field a lot, this is a guy that can definitely be a pivotal part for our offense. And especially with the play action game, the shorter passes, even downfield stuff. I mean, he's quick. You need him to go downfield, he'll go downfield, right? This is good for the New York Jets. So Jets' $10 million decision, is Jamison Crowder a keeper in the new offense? So there were times last season when it looked like wide receiver Jamison Crowder was the only good thing about the New York Jets offense. He scored a team high 6 touchdowns, twice as many as the next player, and he capped his year by throwing a touchdown in a Week 16 win against the Cleveland Browns. Yes, I do remember that. It was a little bit of a trick play. It was Darnold called hike, gave it. I don't know to who first. I think it was Berrios, and then Berrios flipped it to Crowder, and Crowder threw it to Berrios. So it might have been Perryman to Crowder, Darnold to Perryman. I was watching the game, I remember it, but I forget who was the other player. I know it was Darnold to someone, then to Crowder, and then Crowder to Berrios, but I'm not sure. But yeah, now there's speculation he could be a salary cap casualty. Yeah, it's a cold business. Crowder is vulnerable because his cap charge is a team high $11.4 million, including a non-guaranteed $10 million in base salary, a high number for a slot receiver. Because it's the final year of his contract, he's considered an easy cut because his entire base would come off the books, which raises the question: does the team with plenty of cap room, projected $68 million per over the cap, jettison its most productive offensive skill player just because his cap charges over market? In a vacuum, the answer is a no-brainer. Keep him, but you don't build a winning roster by operating that way. Jets general manager Joe Douglas plays hardball when it comes to maintaining a value system, so it wouldn't be a surprise if he looks to reinvest that $10 million. Douglas could try to upgrade at slot receiver with Juju Smith-Schuster or Chris Godwin in the 2020 NFL free agency. That would be serious money. That would cost serious money. He also should opt for a cheaper option, Kendrick Bourne, who spent the last 4 seasons in the system the Jets are planning to install, which is the San Francisco 49ers. There's also a possibility of renegotiating Crowder's contract. Crowder, who turns 28 on June 17th, ranks 7th in receptions, 91, and 8th in yards, 1,094, on the plays from the slot position over the past 2 seasons. According to ESPN Stats and Information, that's pretty good production for a player who missed 4 games in 2020 because of a soft tissue injuries and dealt with inconsistency at the quarterback position. Former Jets coach Adam Gase remarked on numerous occasions Crowder was their best player on offense. All told, Crowder finished with 59 catches for 699 yards, both teams high in 2020, but pedestrian numbers when viewed through a wider lens. In the bottom line sense, Crowder's numbers aren't. I'm gonna shoot with his pay. He has the 3rd highest cap charge among receivers who played at least 50% of their downs from the slot over the past 2 years. Behind the Cleveland Browns, Jarvis Landry, $14.8 million, and the Seattle Seahawks, Tyler Lockett, $13.4 million. Full disclosure, Landry's time in the slot was 49.5% per ESPN Stats and Info. The downside of cutting Crowder is it would leave the Jets with no proven players at receiver. Just promising second-year player Denzel Mims, backup slot receiver Braxton Berrios, and a bunch of question marks. Berrios had a sneaky efficient season, catching 37 passes despite playing 290 snaps, and a better ratio than Crowder, 59 catches and 590 snaps. Crowder would provide personnel continuity through the transition to an offense under Coach Robert Saleh, but that probably won't weigh heavily in the decision. This is a new coaching staff with a new offensive system, a total reboot, and it will look to bring it in its own players. And you can bet there will be a significant acquisition at wide receiver, whether it's through free agency or the draft. Another factor to consider is the role of the slot receiver and coordinator Michael LaFleur's offense. For insight, let's take a look at when he spent the past 4 years working under Kyle Shanahan from 2017 to 2020. Wide receivers caught 258 passes out of the slot, 29th according to ESPN Steph Nindo. Good coaches find ways to use good players, and Crowder is a good player. Now they have to decide if he's enough to pay $10 million. Now, there's always that question, right? If you ask me, would you rather cut Crowder, and if you had an option, if you had two options, either keep Jamison Crowder, or cut him and get two really good receivers, it's tough to say, but I got to see what those two really good receivers are. I really like Jamison Crowder. I think it would be big for him at slot, and that's another thing too. For a young offense to move into a new coach's system, he could be there, leading the way as that kind of veteran presence, right? I think it would be good for the Jets. And they read the slot. I mean, he's top 10 in numbers in the slot. Now, you look at the receiver numbers, he's not top 10. But look at the slot numbers, he's definitely top 10 among all slot receivers. So now let's look at some of his other numbers here. So, his 2020 stats, he had 59 receptions, that's tied 50th in the NFL. 699 yards, that's 55th in the NFL. 6 touchdowns, that's tied for 29th in the NFL. And average was 11.8, that's 71st in the NFL. Now, like I said with his average earlier, 11.8. That was, high for the slot position, right? This is among receivers. You look at the slot position, he's top 10 in almost every category among slot receivers. It's tough to compare a slot receiver to a guy like a DeAndre Hopkins, because, of course, a guy like a DeAndre Hopkins is going to get way more yards than a slot receiver. He's going to go deep every play, and they're going to give it to him 50 yards, boom, just like that. Slot receiver might get that in 7 catches, right? So it's a little different, but you compare him among other slot receivers, it's very good. So it's not like dropping him, getting another slot receiver would really be that huge of an upgrade, because realistically, he is top 10 among slot receivers. So if you drop him, get another guy, it's not really improving that much. So you got to look at it this way. You either keep him and hope that he gives you the same efficiency as last season, or you drop him and hope that a guy like a Juju Smith-Schuster or Kendrick Bourne or someone like that can be even better than what he's done. You got to look at it either way. I mean, it's a big risk, because if you drop him and you get another slot receiver and that slot receiver isn't the same, I can guarantee you're not getting him back unless if it's through trade, because this is a good receiver right here. But if you decide to keep him, you could also be missing out on a bigger name receiver. But at the same time, what do you take here? Do you take what fits the system, or do you take the better skill player? Comment down below. It's a real good question. It really is. I mean, this is the tough decisions coaches, GMs, coordinators have to go through in the offseason. As fans, we could just sit back and enjoy seeing this guy sign here, this guy sign here. But for guys like Crowder, who did so much last season, still might not be on this team because of his contract. And, not saying that he's not going to get picked up anywhere, but that might be a little frustrating for him, knowing that he can have a big role in this team. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. The Jets had this happen to them with Tremaine Johnson a couple years ago. He was their cornerback. He wasn't that good, though. He really was not that good. But he had a big contract. And, people wondered, he had some injuries and stuff. And people wondered, if we would have kept him, what would have happened. But, we got to see how it goes, really. I mean, we obviously cut Tremaine Johnson. So we got to see how, we got to see if instead of cutting him, if we never cut him, then we wouldn't have this much salary cap. But, we ended up cutting him. And that was one of those decisions, too, where, you're like, okay, we knew Tremaine Johnson had potential and we cut him, but it was because of the money. So you got a decision to make. And that's another thing. With this being a wide receiver, heavy loaded, with this being this free agency is a big time offensive loaded, heavy loaded offensive players, which doesn't help Crowder's case, because there's so many good offensive players out there, and Crowder might be left in the dust. But at the same time, Douglas has really got to just sit there, sit down and think, what guy's going to fit us best. You got to, fans, obviously, you want to give the fans what they want. You want to, win and stuff like that. But, if the fans want this player, but this player is obviously the best for the team, get the player that's best for the team. That's all I'm asking for. I really like Jamison Crowder, but if it means that dropping Jamison Crowder is what's going to get us the best chance to make a playoffs and the best chance to win games, then I'm okay with it. But I want the Jets to take this situation and really dissect it and really break it down and see, what do we do with Jamison Crowder? There's always that option. It's tough to do with players because sometimes they're so money heavy, but there's always that option of, you know what? Let's renegotiate his contract. Maybe instead of 1 year, $10 million, we try to renegotiate it so that he could stay on this team. That's a conversation you got to have with Jamison Crowder. That's not my decision, obviously. I'm just a guy that sits in front of the microphone and gives you my opinion on things. So we'll see how it plays out. But I really do like Jamison Crowder, and I would love to see him a part of this offense next season. But like I said, that's not my decision. That's Joe Douglas's decision. So it should be interesting to see how that plays out. But with all that being said, that will do it for the Jamison Crowder segment. Comment down below your thoughts on Jamison Crowder and your thoughts on the Jets receiver situation and your thoughts on what they're going to do with him. Are they going to renegotiate his contract? Are they just going to go ahead and are they just going to go ahead and say, you know what, we're going out and getting all the receivers? Or are they going to go ahead and say, you know what, you were a big key to this offense, we're going to keep you? What are they going to do? I would like to hear your opinion in the comment section. So coming up next, we're going to talk about Justin Wilson signs with the New York Yankees. Not the biggest move in the world, but it is a pretty good move for the New York Yankees. I will tell you why this adds big-time bullpen depth. And I will tell you why this is a solid move. This is not a move that's going to propel us. This is not a move that's going to make us an automatic World Series champion. But this is a move that's going to add bullpen depth. This is a move that's going to help, when you get into those long inning games, or when when you're using your bullpen a lot. This is a move that you're going to look back at as a solid move. Coming up next. Okay, so Yankees rumor, Justin Wilson, New York, agreed to contract in free agency. So the New York Yankees have agreed to sign left-handed reliever Justin Wilson, who played last season in the shortened 60-game season with the New York Mets, played with the Yankees actually a couple years ago. He played with the Yankees a couple years ago. I think it was for like a year, and then went to the Tigers, and then he's bounced around the league a little bit. So, he's been a little bit of a bounce around the league. He hasn't been, like I said, he's not the highest guy in the world, but, at the same time, this is a solid move for the New York Yankees. And we've seen, and I was talking about this the other day when I was talking about Jonathan Villar and the Mets. I know a lot of Mets fans, and I'll get into the Yankees in a second too. I know a lot of Mets fans are going to talk about the big move, the Francisco Lindor and Carlos Carrasco, and getting Lindor in this lineup and getting him in the infield. That big move. Everyone's going to talk about that. But at the same time, I really thought the Mets did well in their smaller moves. Getting a guy like a James McCann. Getting a guy like a Trevor May. Bullpen depth. James McCann. Solid catcher. Getting a guy like a Jonathan Villar, a guy that can stay hot and can play well even when he's not playing every day, can be that guy that's a solid utility guy. If a guy needs a day off, he could slip right into the lineup and be a solid player, right? The Yankees, same thing here. I know we didn't go out and get the biggest free agents in the world. Obviously, outside of the LeMahieu move, everyone's going to talk about LeMahieu getting him back. But I also thought we did really well with some of the smaller moves. Justin Wilson, getting a guy like a Justin Wilson. You can even say Jameson Taillon was a little bit of a smaller move. We obviously signed Jay Bruce. We signed Robinson Chirinos actually today to a minor league deal. That gives us, if we have a catcher situation and we need him to come in, he's already played with Garrett Cole in Houston. That gives us some good depth there. But I think this Justin Wilson move also gives us good depth. Now, same thing with here, and I'll even go on to the Dodgers here. I know everyone's going to talk about the Dodgers getting Trevor Bauer, but even just some of their smaller moves. bringing back, that's not really a smaller move, but getting Justin Turner back, right? Jock Peterson, obviously they felt like it was the best decision for him to go somewhere else. Obviously they preserved some of that money and gave it to Justin Turner. Keeping the players you needed to keep, re-signing the players you needed to re-sign. Those are the good moves. Same thing here with the Yankees. I thought some of their smaller moves, I thought some of the moves that give them depth, some of the moves that help their pitching rotation, I thought that's really where the Yankees did well. Now, I think we can all agree that free agency, for the most part, for the New York Yankees is probably about done. This was really the only guy that we were probably looking at. We got Robinson Chirinos. Other than that, it's going to be a bunch of minor league deals. But we obviously signed him to a big league deal. So Justin Wilson, like I said, this is not a guy that's going to help you. He's going to help you, but this is not a guy. This isn't like a move where you're going to go from maybe the third or you're going to go from maybe the second best team in the league to automatic best team in the league. Oh, this team's unstoppable. Justin Wilson isn't going to do that to a team. What he's going to do is this. He's going to give you solid innings out of the bullpen. He's going to give you, he's going to put up good numbers. He's not going to put up Josh Hader, best reliever in the league numbers, but he's going to put up good numbers. He's going to put up numbers. He's going to stay fresh. He's going to be able to guy. He might not play he might not pitch every other day. He might only come in because he'll be deeper in the bullpen. He might only come in once or twice every 2 weeks. As for Chapman might come in 4 or 5 times every 2 weeks, right? So it's really how it is. But, Justin Wilson, he adds depth, right? And especially with this new whole 7-inning doubleheader rule, you're going to see a lot more times with this whole 7-inning thing. You're going to see a lot more doubleheaders. Knowing now that you can just quickly squeeze in a quick 14 innings in a day, you're going to see that stuff. Especially if a team has a COVID problem or if a team has another issue or a rain out or whatever, this is going to be a guy that's going to help with that, Justin Wilson. He's going to be a guy that, if your first game, let's just say you had a night game, you got done with it. Then you have a doubleheader the next day. Your bullpen is like toasted. You're down to some of your slimmer players. You might even call up the taxi squad players. Right? Justin Wilson would be that guy. This is a guy that could be in some other bullpens, might be higher in the bullpen. But this is a guy in the Yankees, we just add on to our bullpen here. And I really like the Yankees bullpen this year. I really believe it's going to be well improved. Ottavino, obviously with him giving up, he struggled last year. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say that was the greatest move ever because we haven't really seen how it's done. But Ottavino, he struggled with us. He's never really been that dominant with us. So we'll see how that goes. We did lose Tommy Kahnle, but we still got Chapman. We still got, we obviously adding Justin Wilson, and we're getting guys like that, which is it's really big. I think. I really think it's a solid move for the New York Yankees. It gives us depth, and that's one of the things too. I know everyone in sports is always going to want to talk about the starters. Always going to want to talk about the best players in the team. Always going to want to talk about this guy, talk about that guy, to get this guy, talk about this guy, right? They're always going to want to talk about that. But at the same time, I've always thought sometimes it's the smaller name guys, it's sometimes the guys lower on the roster that come up with the bigger moves, that come up in the big moments of the game and really dominate. Now, that could be a mix of a couple things. That could possibly be the pressure, with people not really, really thinking that you're the guy, that you're the guy, Yankees, everyone's focusing on Garrett Cole, right? That could be it, right? Justin Wilson, everyone's talking about Chapman. Justin Wilson, not as much pressure, right? And this is another guy, too, that I don't want to get too much into the New York media thing, but this is a guy, too, that's already played in New York. He's already played with the Yankees, so he's familiar with the organization. He's already played with the Mets. He's already played now, again, with the Yankees. So this is not like you're bringing in a young guy that has never been, with the New York media and stuff. This is a guy that's been around. This isn't no guy that we just called up that we're all hoping is a success. And it's another one of these moves, too. It's a lower risk move. You're not giving him $20 million a year. You're not signing him to a 9-year, $500 million deal. You're signing him to a lower deal, lower money, hoping that he gives you depth, hoping that when you pitch him, he does his job, which is ultimately go out there, give you a couple scoreless innings, and try to win every game you can, right? That's obviously what this deal does, and that's what this deal brings to the table. And that's what he kind of did last season with the New York Mets. Was one of those things where, he kind of did well. I mean, He wasn't amazing, last season. Like I said, solid. He's a solid player. Solid. Solid player is not 1.65 ERA. That's amazing. Solid player is like a 2.3 ERA. He's going to go out there. He's going to do his job. He's going to try his best to get the team a win. And if you're in a situation where you've got a lot of games, or you got a lot of games coming up, or you got a pivotal game coming up, and you don't really feel like using a guy like a Chapman or one of those high-end bullpen guys, you can go ahead and look at a guy like a Justin Wilson in a situation. You might, instead of looking at a Chad Green or a Chapman, you might go ahead and look at a guy like a Justin Wilson, which is good for this bullpen. So Yankees rumors, Justin Wilson, New York agree to contract and free agency. So relief pitcher Justin Wilson is reportedly heading back to the New York Yankees. Sweeney Murdy of Sports Radio 66 WFAN reported the American League East team reached an agreement with the Southpaw on Monday. Wilson has been in the major league since 2012 and has pitched for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Yankees, Detroit Lions, Chicago Cubs, and obviously most recently the New York Mets. Wilson will be another left-handed presence in the bullpen that already features Aroldis Chapman and Zach Britton, followed by, Chad Green, who's a righty, but this brings in more lefty pitching. Although he will likely be more of a middle-late innings option than a closer or pure setup man. The 33-year-old pitched for the Yankees in 2015 and finished with a 3.10 ERA, 1.13 WHIP, and 66 strikeouts on 61 innings while appearing in a career-best 74 games. It wouldn't be a surprise to see New York use him in similar fashion as someone who can start an inning clean, come in to retire the formidable left-handed hitter, or serve as a bridge between the starting rotation and the Britton-Chapman combination at the end of the games. He finished the Sorin 2020 campaign with a solid but unspectacular 3.66 ERA, 1.37 WHIP, and 23 strikeouts in 19.2 innings while pitching for the Mets. However, he posted an impressive 2.54 ERA in 2019. Like I said, solid. He's not spectacular, amazing, great. He's a solid guy. Not saying this because I'm a Yankees fan. Part of it might be, but I really believe Chapman and Britton, when they're on, is one of the best 1-2 punches in the league. Zach Britton has got one of the nastiest off-speed pitches I have ever seen. That pitch starts here, ends here. That slider, that slider he throws, that thing has got to be one of the nastiest pitches I've ever seen. Zach Britton is a very good pitcher, and people like me really like the fact that he's on the New York Yankees. And, this is a guy who's going to be a setup man. Like I said, if you're in a situation where you don't quite want to go to Britton or Chapman or Chad Green yet, one of your high-end guys, he's going to be right there for you. Put him in and be solid. Wilson isn't the only bullpen addition for the Yankees. This offseason, they also added right-hander Darren O'Day, another guy as well. Keep adding bullpen depth, keep adding guys. They're going to help out this bullpen. New York, which finished the 2020 season in second place in the American League East before losing to the Tampa Bay Rays in the AL Divisional Series, was 16th in bullpen ERA last year and could use some improvements as it looks to ascend to the top of the division. So like I said, I think, last season we weren't great with the bullpen, but I definitely think this year with our additions, bringing back Britton, Chapman, Chad Green, adding Darren O'Day, and now Justin Wilson, really think is going to give us that bullpen, that really dominant bullpen we just had a couple of years ago. And that's, I think, really big for the New York Yankees in many ways, and that's really big for many teams in many ways. And this is a guy too, right? He's not, this a guy that's had a solid year last year, solid. But even in 2019, which isn't really that long ago, he had a solid year. He had his best year of his career. That was only in 2019. That wasn't that long ago. If he can get back to that form, that would be really good. So 2020 stats, he had 23 games. He went 2-1 his win-loss record, 3.66 ERA, 19.2 innings pitched, 23 strikeouts, and a whip of 1.37. I know we read that earlier, but I wanted to read his career stats here. 480 games, 32-22 win-loss record, 3.27 ERA, 429.1 innings, 0.1 thirds of an innings pitched, 474 strikeouts, and a whip of 1.28. Obviously, he played 3 seasons with the Pirates, played 1 with the Yankees, then played with the Detroit. He played 1.5 with Detroit, and then went to Chicago, played 2 with Chicago, played 2 with Detroit, 2 with Chicago, and then 2 with the Mets. Obviously, had his best year with the Mets in 2019, posting a 2.45 ERA. Actually, in 2013, he had a 2.08 ERA and a 1.93 ERA, but 2.54 ERA, 45 games he pitched in. The Cubs used him a lot, 71 games. Obviously, the Yankees used him in at best 74 games. He's nailed down in his career 18 saves. He's not really a save guy. He's a guy he's the mid reliever. He's a good guy. He's going to set up the pitches that are going to come in for that. He's pitched, obviously, like I said, a total of 429.1 innings pitched. Obviously, the Yankees used him a lot. That one season with the Yankees was a big boost to some of his stats. And you don't always want to get into the big win-loss record, but his win-loss record for the most part, he's 10 games above 500. I can't stand that stat. I know some people like it. I hate that stat. I can't stand the win-loss record stat. Out of all the stats out there, yards per catch, even in baseball, it could be, nastiest pitches, percentage, what out of all the stats out there, I think the most useless stat ever is the win-loss record. I could literally tell you why I think that's the most useless stat for an entire pod. I'm not going to do it, but I can literally sit here and go on and on and on of how that's the most useless stat ever. I cannot stand the win-loss record for a pitcher. Does not matter at all to me. You want to know why? There's been so many Cy Youngs. Jacob deGrom, for example, won a Cy Young with a below 500 win-loss record. If it meant that much, he shouldn't have won the Cy Young then. And I had him winning the Cy Young, too. I thought he should have. That was not last season. 2 seasons ago, I think. It was the first year of the back-to-back. Because the Mets' hitting was terrible. Win-loss record means nothing to me. It means nothing. And for relievers, it doesn't mean much either, because you might pitch 23 games, but you might only win or lose about 3 games because you might have no decision. You might go out there, pitch 1 inning, or throw to a couple batters, and they can't give you a win or loss off of that. It's another thing why. If win-loss records were so important, everyone would be talking about them. No one talks about the win-loss record. For pitchers, what's big for me is the ERA, and I like to see how many innings they can pitch. Especially with the Yankees, because the Yankees need pitchers that are going to be able to go deep. I'm tired of this, take him out in the 5th inning stuff. No. We need innings that are going to be able to stretch across 6, 7 innings, maybe 8 innings. I mean, Garrett Cole, we've seen he can pitch complete games. We've seen that. But guys like Tyone and Kluber, that's why we're getting them. Those guys have shown that they can stretch it across 5, 6, 7 innings. I'm tired of this 5-inning stuff. And then you got to use 4 innings worth of bullpen. That could be 4 or 5 pitchers right there you're using. I'm tired of that. I want to see more stretching and across innings. My big thing is innings and ERA. ERA is the biggest. Because ERA is really how you do. If you're a guy that per game allows 6 runs, that's not good. Earned run average, that's not very good, right? ERAs, you need to have a good ERA. That's big as well. And he has a solid ERA. His career is a 3.27 ERA. That's solid ERA. You could probably even get it down in the 2s more, which I would be okay with. But even if he gets to 3s area, that would be still a solid ERA. So, so that's what I got there. Obviously, brings another lefty to the bullpen for the New York Yankees. That already adds on to, Aroldis Chapman and Zach Britton. And I'm sure many Yankees fans out there are excited about this, because it is just, we're excited that, we're adding another lefty here, and I'm sure there's many Yankees fans out there that are excited to see Zach Britton back and see, many Yankees fans, I'm sure, are excited to see what all these lefties can do again. Zach Britton obviously has been amazing with us, Chapman, and now Justin Wilson, and I'm excited to see that as well. So, so this is what I got for the college basketball stuff here, and the rest of the topics here. To start it off here, let's see here. So to start it off here, for college basketball, yesterday Florida State won. Today, let's see here. So today we got Missouri, Georgia. I give Missouri the win. Arkansas, Florida, give Arkansas the win. And Illinois, Northwestern, give Illinois the win. And as for the NBA here, yesterday, the Clippers won, Warriors won, Jazz won, Bulls won, Wizards won, and Knicks won. Nets also won yesterday, 136-135. Nets won 136-135. We moved to 17-12 on the season. Big day for us again, big game. Kyrie Irving had 40 points. Harden had 29 points. He had another triple-double. He broke history. First time. Most triple-doubles for a net ever is Harden. Just broke Jason Kidd's record. And he's only played with us for a couple games here, which is really good. And then as for today's game, we got the Celtics Nuggets give Celtics the win. Lakers Timberwolves give Lakers the win. Grizzlies Pelicans give Pelicans the win. Bucks Raptors give Bucks the win. And Trailblazers Thunder give Trailblazers the win. Nets also play today. Nets come in this game 17-12. Suns come in this game 17-9. Suns are 5.5-point favorites. The over/under is 232 for this game. This game comes on at today, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on TNT. So you can find this game on TNT and Yes Network, whichever one you want to watch it on. I'll give the Nets the win here. They're playing the team that's above 500. If our defense could play well, I think we'll give them a win here. And then as for the NHL here, Sharks won, Flames won, Jets won, Coyotes won, Hurricanes won, Islanders won, Panthers won, Senators won, and Blackhawks won. And as for today, we got the Capitals, Penguins give Penguins the win, Sabres, Islanders give Islanders the win, Stars, Predators give Stars the win, Knights, Avalanche give Knights the win, and Wild, Kings give Wild the win. Rangers also play today. Rangers come in this game 4-6-3. Devils come in this game 4-3-2. This game comes on today, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on MSG. I'll give the Rangers the win here, and I'll tell you why here. I give the Rangers the win. I think the Rangers will win this game simply because the Devils have had some COVID issues, and they've been off for a very long time. They're going to show some rustiness. I know Keandre Miller and Panarin are out, but I'll still give the Rangers the win here. So. Alright, then we get to fantasy, and then that's pretty much it there. So for fantasy basketball here, I'm currently winning 267 to 177, so going pretty good there. This is the lineup. I got Kyrie Irving going, Jeremy Grant, Pascal Siakam, Jonas Valanciunas, Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet. And then this is the injury report here. Anthony Davis is out. Davis calf will be reevaluated in 2 to 3 weeks after undergoing an MRI on Monday. Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN reports. So he's obviously out there. So we got to get better. I got to find someone else to fill in that spot there. Oladipo is also still day to day there. And then as for the hockey here, I'm winning 25 to 16, so going pretty good there. This is the players I got going today. I got Mika Zibanejad, Jack Eichel, Anzes Kopitar, Jamie Benn, Nicholas Backstrom, Shea Theodore, and my goalie is Semyon Varlamov. Some injury update. Panarin is out. Panarin lower body will not be available against the Devils on Tuesday, so he is out. And Shea Theodore is day to day. He is still the same with him. Panarin should be back though. Panarin should be back very soon, though. They're close to coming back there with his injury. He should be back, though. So with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. It was another good podcast. Crazy, but tomorrow, as crazy as it may sound, tomorrow is the start of spring training. Obviously, pitchers and catchers report tomorrow. It's going to be good to see how the season goes. Hopefully it's successful. Hopefully the Yankees obviously win it all. That's obviously my hope. We'll obviously but a lot more coverage on the things here. Free agency is winding down, so really the baseball coverage is probably going to be a lot of, might be some signings and stuff, but it's probably going to be a lot of just going over teams, rosters. I know I said about the lineups, but there's been so much news. I had to push that back a little bit, so, one of these days I'll still talk about the lineups and stuff. But I'll still talk about some of the lineup stuff there. So, So with all that being said, that'll do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. It was another good podcast. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.